And we are live on the Metal Voice. This is the third installment of we'll call it the tribute and memorial to Eddie Van Halen. And of course, with us is Chris Holmes, who grew up with Eddie. You know,
Yeah.
I want to have you on because I know we've talked about with me and Alan. We've talked about and you, of course, we've talked about, bits and pieces of your childhood with Eddie Van Halen. And I thought maybe we'd get a little more depth and get everybody else a nicer picture of Eddie, in his early years and when you grew up with him.
Well, I met him when I was about 14. So I didn't know him didn't grow up before that,
Mm-hmm.
But those were the best years. Those were the drug years. Right when you start drinking,
Yeah, 14, yeah.
Well, okay. What was the first time you met Eddie? Like what is it? You bumped into him? Was it in school? Where was it?
Is that a party in Monrovia at somebody's house? He was playing a backyard party, and I just went up and approached him and talked to him, and he was cool then. We were just kids. He was just a kid playing in a rock group. It was a Mammoth.
Mammoth. Okay, I was wondering if they were going to call Van Halen at that point, or they're still Mammoth. So,
well, it's Mammoth. It's him and Ed sang, and I think the bass player was named Michael Stone. I'm not 100% sure. I was trying to remember his name.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, and they played Black Sabbath songs and stuff like that. And then I just talked to him, mentioned I kind of played guitar or whatever, blah blah blah. And then the next, oh God, I couldn't tell you the next time I ran into him was at probably another party.
Was that, Chris, was that the thing? Like, I mean, backyard parties back then, all the bands playing backyard parties.
Every weekend, every Friday and Saturday night, there was rock groups playing backyards, and so sometimes I'd have my friend, if I wanted to party, I'd have him go call the cops, so the cops would shut the band down, and I'd go party, if I didn't want to play.
Yeah.
But wasn't there, today I couldn't see that happening, at least where we live, me and Alan, because, somebody would call the cops, right? There'd be a noise pollution. How come they got away with it back then?
It could have been the 70s. The cops usually didn't show up till 9:30 or 10, sometimes 11. It depends if you played inside or outside.
Okay.
Van Halen once played at this place called Oak Knoll in Arden at this guy's friend Jack Van Vershe's house, and the cops shut it down and a helicopter flying over, and the kids rioted. And the next day, we were flipping over cop cars out in the street. Oh. I think there was 9 cop cars flipped upside down.
That's a party.
Squad. Oh, huge party.
But huge ass party. You saw the band in its Mammoth stage, right? That's the first time you saw Van Halen, when they were called Mammoth, right? Before David Lee Roth joined. Now we're talking, right? Yeah.
But it wasn't that big. It was like just a backyard party band, And nobody had any dreams about being big, or it's when you're that young, you don't really think about it,
Man, I would have liked to be there, Alan. That would have been cool.
Well, there was a lot of groups, played a lot of. There's thousands of them playing. Every weekend there was a band playing in somebody's backyard, Monrovia, Pasadena, La Cañada, But yeah, I met him there. Then they played at. He got Roth in the band, and I met him real good. Was that when they played at my high school?
Oh, okay.
That's right, and that's where we became close friends after that. I got a funny story. One time, Ed was over at my house, and we were smoking this stuff called Thai weed. Because you ever heard of that? You get on Thai sticks.
Heard of it? Yes.
Huh? Thai sticks?
Yeah.
No, anyways, it's from Thailand, and we were smoking, getting fucking high as a kite. It's about 4 p.m. We're high, and we're fucking with my amp. And we cranked it up, and the windows was down. And Ed goes, "Hey, you gonna close the windows?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck the neighbors," And he was playing guitar, right? And I wanted the windows open so the neighbors thought it was me playing.
Like, that guy got chops.
They said, I was like, yeah, they think that's me playing. That's funny.
But did he have any influence on your style of playing, Chris?
Ed?
Yeah.
On me?
Yeah.
Did I have influence on him? No.
No. He had influence on your style.
No, totally. If I never met him, I would never be where I'm at today.
Wow.
Guarantee you that. 100% guarantee of that. Guaranteed, yeah. Because I learned about certain things about amps being around him, Marshall amps, and I can say, yeah, I tried to play like him, but you can't. Nobody can. There's people that copy him and sound like him, but he's the originator of what he did. I kind of tried to, but I like the more Sabbath type stuff, and yeah. He had a touch and a technique that, I don't know where it came from. Birth, I don't know.
Tell me about Terry Kilbourne. Kilbourne, is that how I pronounce him? He was your guitar.
Kilbourne.
Kilbourne, okay.
Yeah, he had a band called Ready Kilowatt in Pasadena. He was friends with Ed. I took lessons from Terry, probably say 70. Probably could have been 74 or 5, and I was painting a house in La Cañada at the time, and there was a guy. I just told Terry. The guy had gold records on the walls, and it was in Flintridge, a rich area of La Cañada, Flintridge. It was Harvey Mandel's house, and I never met him, but I met his wife. But we were painting it, and I told Terry, "Hey, there's this guy Harvey Who's Harvey Mandel?" And Terry says, "You know him?" I go, "I don't know him, but I know where he lives. I'm painting his house." And Terry goes, "Could you ask him if I could meet him?" I guess he's some special jazz guitar player or whatever. So I asked Mandel's wife if I could give Terry's number to him, and Harvey called him, and Terry went up and met him and learned some tricks from him, but he learned a finger tap. Terry was doing that. That's one of the lessons. And about maybe a month later, Van Halen was doing it. I think that's where the finger tapping comes around from Harvey Mandel.
Wow.
So
I've heard Ed say different stories.
Was Harvey or Terry teaching Ed?
Terry and Ed were guitar rivals around town.
Okay.
They're friends, and Terry had a certain style. Some of it, I'm not going to say Ed stole. Ed played like. No, Ed's just played like, everybody stole everybody's tricks or licks or whatever. I don't know, but there's some of the early style that Ed had. A bit of it came from Terry.
But I read, Chris, maybe you could confirm this. Back in the day, before they got signed, I heard that the big three were Randy Rhoads, George Lynch, and Eddie Van Halen in that circuit.
Yeah. Around at the cabaret, and who played the town. George Lynch had a band called The Boys. He also had one called Orange before that. The Boys and Orange. Of course, Quiet Riot, they had the chicks. And then Van Halen had all the beer drinking, dope smoking people, all the drug addicts, the dope smokers. You drank Schlitz malt liquor and smoked dope at Van Halen gigs. And Quiet Riot, you'd smoke Sherman cigarettes and drink Perrier.
40 years later, I think people are still drinking, smoking, and drinking Schlitz to Van Halen. So there's a tradition that lives on still.
Yeah. Killed me. Last time I went and saw Van Halen play, I walked in the Forum, right? And the concession stands were free, the booze.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, all the time I've come down here, I had to pay for alcohol. And I go, now it's free.
Now he's sober.
And I don't drink. That's screwed.
Classic.
It's funny. I saw him play at the Forum. From day one, every Van Halen tour that they ever did, the last night of every rehearsal, they have a party at the rehearsal room. And anybody that knows anybody would, call up a friend or whoever and get on the guest list if you knew somebody. And you go and they'd have a fucking their last show rehearsal for all their friends. They did it every year, and they did one when they had Dave come back in the band at the Forum. Yeah, and it was kind of weird going to the Forum when it only had about 1,200 people in there, and they had Kool and the Gang played too.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was the last,
Oh wow! Everybody was rehearsing.
I remember
final
that.
rehearsal. Really, a final rehearsal. Even the opening band was there doing their rehearsal. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Chris, tell me about. Okay, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead too much. Okay, so you're growing up with Eddie. You know, he's playing in Mammoth. David Lee Roth joins a band, and then they turn into Van Halen. Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they got. I don't know. They got Dave. I hate to say it, but they got Dave so they could rehearse at Dave's dad's house.
And he had a PA system, right?
Yeah.
Were you there when they were rehearsing?
Well, Dave's dad, he lived in Pasadena by where Wrigley's Mansion is, and Wrigley's Mansion is a Wrigley's gum.
Yes.
They donated it. It's where the Rose Parade starts off on Orange Grove. Dave's dad's house is right around the corner. It's a big mansion. It has a big basement under the whole house. So you can play any time of day or night down there. Nobody hears it. You know, I went to a few parties there and woke up the next morning in the basement, you know, from a hangover, like picking my nose. You know where the fuck I was. You know, but yeah, they got Dave and Anthony he came in and they smoked from day one. Every time I saw them play, is just cover songs. It was phenomenal. They played cover songs better. Most of the covers they played were better than the bands that they'd play Led Zeppelin song. It's fucking better, way better than Led Zeppelin. To me.
Yeah.
You know, ZZ Top songs, fucking Plato's, LaGrange, way better to me, way better than ZZ Top did. Kiss songs. I used to have an old recording of my old drummer used to be their sound guy.
Okay. But so they did just to clarify, you were in the basement or David Lee Roth's basement, you know, in his house, and you were there for their jams and parties, his father's house, right? You were there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
so they just rehearsed. They'd rehearse there, and once they had a few parties there, not big, huge cranking parties, you know, where anybody can come, you know.
What's the first original you heard by Van Halen, like in those jam days? Do you remember?
LaGrange, I Want to Rock, Kiss, Rock and Roll All Night.
No, but I mean original though, not covers. Do you remember playing around with any originals? Don't tell me Hot for Teacher, you know, back then.
No. Ain't Talking About Love.
Okay.
Wow.
They played, I remember them the first time they played that was at Magic Mountain. And it fucking kicked ass, man. Hey. Yeah. And they just put the first time they ever played the song was there.
That's great history.
And I read stories, as you know, when they were getting their record deals and trying to get a record deal, where they would play in front of 50 people or 10 people as if they were playing in front of 100,000. They had that power. They never let off the pedal, no matter what the crowd was like.
Sometimes the Starwood would be the Starwood would hold about maybe, I'd say at the most 400 packed, 500. Sometimes there's only 50 people there, you know, because it's on a Thursday night. That's when they had it. When they first started playing. Yeah. Sometimes there wasn't that many people there. You know, I saw him play Gazzarri's a bunch of times. You know, that's all dance music.
Is it true Eddie Van Halen used to turn around every time he played a solo so people wouldn't see him play the hammer-ons and how he did it?
Fuck no. No way.
You never seen that? You never see... Because
he wouldn't do that.
You've never seen him turn around and not show what he was doing, because that's what the books say. That's right, Alan? That's what the book says.
No. Well, that book's wrong, man, whoever that is, because he ain't scared to show anybody anything.
What was he like as a person? What was he like as a person when you grew up with him? Was he kind? Was he friendly?
Kind as hell to me. He was friendly. He was friendly to everybody that I was around, unless he didn't like you. I remember once at Zoltro Studios, there was a guy at a gig, last rehearsal. I think it was he just played the keyboard, so it was probably the 1984.
Yeah.
And there was some guy, forgetting his name's Pete Stadnick, and he was giving Ed shit, and Ed turned around, pissed on his Lamborghini. He goes, "You see this? I can piss on this thing." I don't know, but I've never seen him really be mean to anybody. Never really heard him say anything shitty about anybody.
He was brought up well.
And he always had a heart of gold around me, man.
What about that bickering between him and David Lee Roth? That famous bickering, that the arguing. That was there a lot of truth to that?
You'd have to be around Dave.
I mean, you've been around Dave. You've been around Dave. I mean, like
the poster child.
I never had to play with the guy. You know what I mean?
Dave's called himself the poster child for Ritalin, is what he's called himself. So he's like a ball of energy, Dave. Right? Yeah.
Dave's Dave. The way he is off stage, the way he's on stage, that's what makes the character. You know. I used to not like Dave, but I love the guy now because that's just the way he is. He's just Dave's Dave. You know, he's in my book, what really started to break up between those guys and the bickering, what I know it as was there. I think on the third album on tour, there was a poster, or it could have been the second album, of Dave in kind of drag and chains, you know, with his arms up, and there's a poster of him kneeling like he could be submissive to some chick or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he wanted all the money to that poster sold. And Van Halen was like, "No, everything's quarterly. That's the way it is." And Dave, that's what started it.
Yeah.
You know,
money, the evil of all things.
What about, I read about also the racist. Eddie felt he didn't belong. So his father was, you know, from Amsterdam. Was it Netherlands, right? His mother was Indonesian. He felt like out of place growing up in school. Did he ever tell you, like he was being bullied, I think? He felt racist. People were racist towards him. Did you ever get that sense?
Never once to me. Nope.
All right.
And I never heard him say the N-word.
No, but I don't mean he was racist. I mean people were racist towards him.
Nah, not to anybody I know. You know, nah. That's not because his family. Well, they weren't Americans, or they were. You know, they weren't born there. So what? You know, no.
You never heard anything like that. What?
Somebody I know I was talking to 4 months ago, I was talking to him, and he said a friend of mine was up at Ed's house and just said, he goes, he doesn't think he's going to make it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he said Ed's was really bad off. And then, you know, to hear that he didn't tell me how bad off he was, but I guess he was true. He was right, you know. And it's sad. Cancer takes a lot of people, you know.
Look, I know I texted you guys, and the first day when it happened, I get the sense that you're just completely heartbroken.
It didn't hit me till about a day after, you know. Yeah. I'll never talk to him again.
No.
You know, never. Yeah, but that's you know, it doesn't matter how rich you are, poor you are, whatever. Cancer will eat you up, man. You know, if you don't catch it in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, he always told me that. He told me that he thinks or whatever, because he still smoked. I gave him shit once. He was still smoking after he had his tongue cut out or whatever. And I go, you just don't give a shit about that shit, do you? And he goes, my cancer isn't from smoking cigarettes. It's from an alloy that was in a metal pick. I guess he'd know. But I mean, if the doctors know how it was transmitted or whatever, but that's where he thinks he got it from. You know, I used to use metal picks, but I never chewed on them.
Yeah.
He said he said the exact same place where he used to place his pick in his mouth is where he had the cancer originally. That's what you're saying, and that's what the book.
That's what he believed.
That's what he believed.
That's what he believed as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, and then he said his studio, because there was so much electromagnetic fields in his studio, that could have caused it too. But then again, I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you.
Yeah.
It could have.
Go
Just
ahead,
to go
Alan.
with what Chris was saying, I mean, I want to dedicate this show to my good buddy Pro. I mean, anybody that knows this guy thinks of Van Halen, thinks of him. He's a huge fan, and he's been decimated the last 2 or 3 days. He's actually surprises himself at how much it's affected him, and you know, everybody said, "Hey, one more tour, we'll catch them the next time, right? They'll get together," and that's not happening, right? And,
No.
so it's affected a lot of people, and again, it's an outpouring of emotion. You can go on the internet. There's it's still days and days later. It's affecting a lot of people. Look, this is our third show on Eddie, just on Eddie. So
Yeah, my book, Jimi Hendrix electrified the guitar, but Eddie Van Halen rocked it. He took it to another level, and there's probably never I think he influenced rock guitar as much as Jimi Hendrix did on people, probably more.
Yeah.
It's probably, he'll go down to me as one of the best guitar players ever.
I'll add to that, Chris. Here's a quote from Jimmy Page himself. Here's a quote. For my money, Eddie Van Halen was the first significant new kid on the block. Very dazzling. He played a vital role in keeping kids interested in playing guitar because they could look up to this cheeky little guy with the big smile. That's from Jimmy Page. And I think, and it was always smiling. That's what I remember the most from Eddie when he, in the early days when he was playing. He was always had that cigarette and a smile on his face, and the joy, just the pure joy of him playing guitar. You can see it. He lived for it.
Oh yeah.
Is it true, Chris, that on this guitar right here, on this album, sorry, it was your guitar that was used on Women and Children First?
I had that guitar at my house for about a year. All right, I only had one guitar, and he borrowed mine and gave me that one that was cut out with the. There's two metal things on there, right? With eyelets, and have you ever opened up an old garage and it's got the metal that holds the garage, the wire?
Yeah.
Well, that tightens the wires. It's screws that go the wrong way, and you tighten it. And it holds those. I don't know what they call the things, but Ed put those in. He borrowed my guitar because it ruined the sound of that guitar.
But I guess he borrowed your guitar to play on this whole album?
Yeah.
So Chris Holmes' guitar, I mean, that's what I just read just recently, that your guitar, I think it was actually in your documentary, like a snippet of your documentary where you talked about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you guys ever jam together on stage?
No, we did at my house. We would at my house, not with a bass and drums, but just tinkering around on the guitars. We were both mostly smoking pot, getting high.
Well,
I used to live with a guy that deal dope, so I'd get a lot of free dope,
Okay.
The first time I saw them was actually the 5150 tour. They wanted James Brown to open for them on that tour, but they had just come out with this huge single from the Rocky movies there, and they couldn't afford him. Yeah, they couldn't afford him, so they had BTO, one of my favorite bands of all times. They were opening for them, and Sammy's first tour.
Yeah,
and that was my first experience seeing them live. So.
Did you ever see him with Dave? You never saw him with Dave?
No, unfortunately, I
saw them.
No,
I saw him on Diver Down.
Yeah, Dave was great on stage, man.
Yeah,
that's Dave's personality. That's the way he is.
I tell Jimmy all the time. I saw Dave's first two solo tours, Eat 'Em and Smile and Skyscraper, and those two were the most fun you could ever have in your life. Was that concert? Inflatable microphones, large cowboy hat, a boxing ring that comes out, and he's in a boxing ring. It was the ultimate show. Just two of it was the most fun I've ever had at a concert in my life was with Dave, and it was just another guy that just really enjoyed the spotlight and the music. So,
all right, I'm gonna go to Chris. I'm gonna go to some comments. I mean to cut you off. Rico says, and just the comments that people are like, a lot of people are typing, and I never read them, but I'm gonna read them right now. Chris rocks. It's a shame that W.A.S.P didn't, but we're not gonna talk about W.A.S.P today. Rico says, Chris, what's up, Holmes? Mike says, The Headless Children is absolutely brilliant. Darren says, Chris, are you going to record any new music? Hey, Chris, Mark Harrington here grew up with you. Do you remember Mark Harrington?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Tell him hi.
Hey, hi. Well, you just did.
Yeah. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, Mark?
Darren saying thank you, Tone Mary. I don't know what that means. Oh, Darren Diggle. Chris is in processing, working on new music. Okay, so yes, you are working on a new album, right? You're working on a new album for next year.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm in France.
Yep. Yep. Chris Holmes outlived. Oh, I don't want to say that. The guy was. Let's see. And I'm getting a lot of Chris Holmes. A lot of love to you, Chris. And your story seems people seem to really like your story. Indeed, I'm decimated. Randy Rhoads. So tell us a little bit about that rivalry between Burbank and Pasadena. Randy Rhoads versus Van Halen. What did you see firsthand?
It was always like who was better on guitar. I personally thought Van Halen was, because he had his sound was 1,000 times better. Randy Rhoads played through a PV, and PVs weren't very good at the time. Okay. And Van Halen, Ed always had one of the fucking killerest guitar sounds there was. I mean, that's best sound, killer. And like I said, if I would show up at a Van Halen gig and say I was at a Quiet Riot gig, I'd get my ass kicked.
Oh, there was that much competition between the bands.
Just the fans, even the fans, you know.
Wow.
It's because they're both 3-piece power trios with singers, you know.
Were you there at that one night where Van Halen and Quiet Riot played together? There was one show that they played together. Do you remember?
It could have been in
it was a Starwood. I'm not sure.
At the Glendale College. I think it was at the Glendale College. Okay. Quiet Riot opened for Van Halen.
Yeah. So that was historic night in a way.
Yeah. I was there, but I was probably smoking dope, chasing some broad or something, doing something stupid in the audience, you know.
I'm seeing a pattern here, Chris.
Yeah, that's what you did when you were young.
That's what you did, exactly.
The first thing is smoke the dope and get high, you know, or whatever.
Van Halen 1 comes out. Did you have any contact with Eddie when Van Halen 1 came out?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he borrowed my guitar after when 1 came out. I remember I talked to him when he was on the Sabbath tour. Mm-hmm. That's during Van Halen 1, and they canceled L.A. and the Ramones played in place of Sabbath, so Van Halen could come back and play. You know, headline.
Did he tell you? Did he tell you about how they were blowing Sabbath off the stage back then?
He never said that they're blowing him off, because he liked him and Tony were friends. He liked okay. Tony. All you know, right. He never said that. He never once ever said, "Oh, we're just killing Sabbath." He never said that. He never once ever told me that they killed somebody. He never had to. Hey, he never had to say it.
Yeah.
He never had to say it. But I know they did. I personally. There was, I don't care who they played against, you know, they were like a well-oiled, tuned fucking racing machine, you know, and his brother, Alex, as good as Ed is on the guitar, he's that good for back then. He was that good on drums. The only reason why he didn't overshine is because Ed overshined him, you know, on the guitar. But Alex he's that good of a drummer, you know. He never got the recognition or whatever. Alex is, I didn't ever met him. He's got a heart of gold too, like Ed. You know.
No, that's good.
But I'll tell you a funny story. Probably 76, I think. Mm-hmm. Down at the Starwood, I went down the show with Ed, and he had this old Ford van, this Ford. I forget the name of it. They had a really short front end. And we load up the truck and shit after the show. And everybody's, you know, splits or whatever. And it was Ed and I in his van going back to Pasadena. We get a flat tire on Santa Monica and pull around the corner. He didn't have a spare.
So you had to push.
So I'm like, dude, and we had this old shitty jack that you got to crank by hand to get it up. So I'll go find us a tire. And I was looking underneath. I was looking, couldn't find a Ford truck because usually the spare tires under the back, just steal one that way. But so I jacked up this other Ford, hoping the tire would fit on. And I come back with this tire. I go, I stole somebody's tire around the corner. It was in Hollywood off Santa Monica Boulevard. I go, Ed, I got a tire. And he goes, great. How are we going to jack up my van? Where's the jack, Chris? And I go, I left it under the car. I go, fuck. So I go back. I couldn't get the jack out because the car was too low. So to jack it up, and there was a brick wall by there. And I kicked the fucking the wall hard enough where a brick came out of the wall. And I stuck the brick, up underneath the A-arm of the car. And then we stole somebody's tire to get home. It's funny.
Not for the guy when he woke up the next morning, but we can laugh about it now.
Well, that's too bad. He could put his spare on his car and still go.
Okay. There's a bright. Yes.
He could put his spare tire on his car and still go.
Yep. Yep. What about the second album? Any contact with Eddie on the second album? Now the band's getting bigger, right? Now it's getting bigger. Van Halen 2, things are really picking up steam.
The second album is I had miscalculated a corner on my motorcycle and ended up in the hospital at Verdugo Hills. I broke my back, and he came in the hospital and asked to borrow my guitar to do that album. And I wasn't going to be out of the hospital for a while. I was in traction, they strap you up, and I go, yeah, just go to my my house. He knew where I lived. Let's go tell my mom you need my guitar. And then when I got out of the hospital, that's when I picked up his guitar because I needed one. No, he left his there at my mom's house. Yeah, they recorded the album. I didn't talk to him while they recorded, and I don't know, just when he's doing his gig, But when I got my guitar back, right, it didn't have the pickup in it, and the bridge was off it.
Just like you took the tire off the car, he took off the.
Well, I'm sure he was going to put it all back together or something, but I went over and dropped his guitar off, and his mom let me go through in his room and get mine back. I wanted my guitar back.
Yeah, they were still living at home after the first two albums came out, right? I mean, again, very simple guys. They play for music for themselves, and
well, there's nothing like living at your parents', man. I lived at my mom's till I was about 23.
Yeah,
I moved out and back and forth, but fuck, your parents are your parents,
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, Gene Simmons did it into his late 20s because he was never home. They were always touring. He said, "Why would I get a place and I'm never there?" So.
Yeah.
What was Eddie's parents like? Eddie?
My mom said, when Ed showed up at our house to get my guitar, he was wearing a full ski mask. He pulled up he had a Jeep, and he pulled up in a full ski mask. My mom thought somebody was going to rob her.
Oh boy. I think I got a picture of that Jeep somewhere.
Chris, what was a
renegade.
What was Eddie's parents like?
His mom was a doll. She was great, man. And I never really met his dad too much because he was out working. But his mom was great.
Yeah.
She spoke English good, She's so sweet, always a sweetheart to me.
Cool. What about Van Halen 3? So now we're going into Van Halen. Now the bands are even getting bigger. Are you still in contact with him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I talked to him here and there. We didn't go out and party. He was always gone on the road, Mm-hmm. I talked to him when he'd get home.
When you saw them in the early days in that basement and you see them rising to fame, did you think this was going to happen? Like Eddie, like when you saw him in the basement, you said, this is the most incredible guitarist. This guy's going to be the biggest guy in the world. Or, yeah, it could happen. Like, did you think he was going to be as big as he is?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. When they played at Starwood, I did. I thought they would.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah, I thought they would. There was nobody like them, man. They were in a class of their own.
I knew I had the picture.
Look at that.
Yeah,
There's the
yeah. There's a
Renegade.
Jeep. Yep, that's the Renegade, right?
Yep, it's written right on
Is that
the side.
It's silver, right? What color
Yep.
is that?
Silver.
Yeah. I think he rolled that thing up in Azusa Canyon. I think he rolled it. I mean, it didn't hurt. You can roll a Jeep and roll it right back over and just dents the fenders up. You know?
All right. So Fair Warning, Diver Down, 1984. Now the band is like one of the biggest bands. The videos, right? And I guess now you're seeing less of him because he's just disappeared, right? I mean, he's.
But Chris
20
has his own career by then,
and
right?
you have your own career too. I mean, has the bands ever met up? You know, did they ever align?
Not playing together. Did one time we're on the internet. I guess I can say this.
No, you keep it, PG.
It's
I
only
guess.
between the three of us. Nobody will ever know.
This is all right. I don't care. I'll say this. A lot of Blackie fans won't like this, but
Okay.
we're going down towards Atlanta, W.A.S.P, and we're on the Sabbath tour, and it's right when cell phones came out, and my tour manager says, "Hey, Chris, tomorrow we had tomorrow night was a night off, and then we played at the Fox Theater with Sabbath." And he said somebody from the Van Halen management called Sanctuary and wanted me, says, to come down the show. So I go, yeah. So they, I didn't ask Blackie. Maybe he thought he was welcome. Maybe, I don't know. So anyway, we were staying in Sabbath, had the same hotel, and I was partying, talking with Tony, and Tony said, we'll go down on my bus. So I went down on the Sabbath bus, and BTO was opening for him. I remember that at Atlanta, the Omni. And I was sitting back doing something, and I never met Sammy Hagar. He came right up, shook my hand, says, "What's happening, Chris?" My jaw hit the ground because I never met the guy, man. He sang for Montrose, you know? To me, it was like, whoa. But anyway, but he was cool. And then we're in Ed's tuning room, snorting blow and drinking and talking shit. And Tony and Ed we're just jawing it. And Blackie walks in, you know, like he's welcome. And Ed looks at me and goes, "Who in the fuck is this dickhead?"
Oh, jeez.
He said, "Who in the fuck is this?" And Blackie's not stupid. You know, he knows when he's not wanted. He turned around and walked out. You know, I mean, but he shouldn't have walked in the guitar room with the guitar players.
So he had your back, basically. Eddie had your back. That's what it comes down to. He got your back.
But he just said, "Who in the fuck's this dickhead?" You got to, because it goes back to the Starwood days, you know, when Blackie used to hang out at the Starwood. That was his place.
All right.
I don't want to harp on him.
Let's keep it Eddie Van Halen. Let's keep it Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. All right. So
I'll tell you, the happiest time I ever talked to him once on the phone was right when he had his kid.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Wolfgang.
Yeah. It might have been about 3 days after Wolfgang was born, and I remember Ed he goes, "Fuck, now I gotta grow up, man." he goes, "Man, now I gotta grow up."
But Chris, how did his attitude change with, you know, between Sammy, like you said, you went in Sammy's first tour, breath of fresh air. He was going through a lot of, we'll just say, some irritation with Dave. How did the atmosphere change? Did you see an atmosphere change between the two?
Well, he's before Hagar. Before Hagar came in, there was Gary Sharon. Remember?
No,
right?
No, it was the other way around. Right? It was like yes and no. It was Hagar, Gary,
it was
and
Roth,
then Hagar again.
Roth, Sharon, then Hagar. Didn't Sharon?
Yeah, okay.
It was Roth, Hagar, Mitch Malloy, and then Gary.
Yeah, Mitch Malloy.
Well, I don't think Mitch did an album with him, did he?
No.
He was in there for like 5 minutes.
Apparently, there's one sitting out there with him singing on it. It was never released. So.
Huh.
But but did Eddie's attitude change? Did you see him like? Was he more positive or?
No, it's just the same to me. When I talked to him, I never really. Well, when I talked to him on the phone, I didn't really talk about music or whatever. It was just about shit that happened, whatever. You know, I just remember talking when Wolfgang was born. He was just happy as hell. Said he had to grow up. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course, you know, his famous marriage with Valerie Bertinelli, right? Did you ever meet Valerie?
Huh?
Did you ever meet Valerie
A few-
Bertinelli? Yeah.
A few times at a few shows.
Okay.
You know, I never really talked to her, but you got to remember, being from W.A.S.P, whatever, you're not liked very much in certain instances, you know.
It might be the raw meat that they were tossing on stage that kind of. Hey, do you remember Thor?
Or the rack.
Do you remember
Maybe
Thor?
it was the rack that turned off people.
I remember Thor. He was telling me a story about him and Blackie. You know, and they weren't getting along. Do you remember Thor? Canada's Thor. It was like he went on stage and.
The big guy?
Yeah, the muscle guy. The muscle guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember he was telling me he didn't get along with Blackie either. In a separate sort of. But we'll talk about it another time.
We'll talk
I
about
know.
it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, is there anything else?
Thanks.
Is there anything else that you want to like say about Eddie? You know, tell everybody that something special maybe.
Oh God, it's just it didn't hit me till like a day after. I'll never talk to the guy again. You know.
Yeah. Jeez.
He's probably the most influential guitar player, besides Jimi Hendrix, there ever was or probably ever will be, and he was liked by everybody. You know, I really don't know too many people that disliked Ed. Or I call him Ed. I don't know why I've always called him Ed. It's always been that way. Kilbourne called him Edward. It's funny that I always call him Ed, but I don't know anybody that's ever that disliked Ed. He had a heart of gold. And it's sad that, evil people seem to live forever while the young people go early,
Only the good die young, yeah.
Last time you talked to him?
Would be at that show at the Forum. It was the last time I talked to him when I was in LA. When they were doing a show with had the Kool in the Gang.
Yeah.
No, and it was great having you on the show, Chris. We did a show with Aldo Nova a couple of days, gave us the musician kind of perspective, and now we're getting the personal side. You had a personal relationship with Eddie, and it's greatly appreciated that you're sharing that here with us while we remember the great Eddie Van Halen and a tribute to him. So,
oh yeah, he influenced a lot of guitar players, man, a lot. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I guarantee you, I would not be where I'm at today. Me. I guarantee you that.
I bet you a lot of people can say that as well. So,
well, I wouldn't have the guitar sound I do. He's a contributor to a lot of it. A lot of what I learned from being around him. Just dial in your amps and make them sound. But we used to play with the amps in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So
find the right tone.
Yeah, it was about tone too, right? Not only playing, but he mastered the tone. He had such a beautiful tone.
Oh, he had the killer tone.
Yeah.
There's a few tricks that I learned from the guy that helped me out. Not as in guitar tricks on the guitars with amps, playing with the amps and stuff. And it's one thing he had. He had one of the killerest guitar tones there's ever been in rock.
Oh. You can hear that guitar, right away who's playing it. There's only a few. I can only name a handful of guys that you can really hear them. For me, John Sykes is another one. I can hear John Sykes' tone. Gary Moore. But there's not too many people that you can just hear a tone of a guitar and that's him.
Ed used to be able to play into one Marshall head, one cabinet, and the guitar straight. He had a wah-wah, barely had the flanger on an echo. That was it. Fucking killer sound, man. Yeah. Unbelievable. And those amps, they have no preamp sound. They were just a volume. That was it. Wow. And
Chris, whenever you saw him, did he always look at you and you bring back his youth? Like you're like an old friend. Like you look at him, and you go, Ed. And that's why the connection was there.
Get out the tie sticks.
Yeah. That's what it seems like. It seems like, like those friends you have over the years that you don't, talk to once in a while, but you always have that connection of youth, of your youth together.
Yeah. I don't know. He was cracked up once when I was married to Lita Ford. And he said something about her, But
We'll leave it for another time.
huh?
We'll save that for another time. Chris,
Yeah.
Chris, you know what? Thank you so much. You know, and
Thanks,
we're
Chris, yeah.
we're doing these shows to remember, and like Alan said, we're doing these shows to remember Eddie Van Halen from all perspectives: musician's perspective, from a person, a personal perspective, who he was as a
Yeah.
person's little stories that we've never heard before. It's great, man. It's great, man. Thanks for taking your time out.
Yeah. It's one thing I learned from Ed is how to treat other people. In the music business.
Right.
Yeah.
Playing music. I saw him be nice to everybody that he was around him, that looked up to him and played guitar. He's always took the time out to talk to people, everybody. And I learned a lot of that from him.
So that smile was real. When you see Eddie Van Halen smiling always, on camera, that was a real smile,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's fucking happy. He's a happy person to be around, I mean, hey, he's no different than anybody else have his drug problems and alcohol problems. Everybody does going through that,
Yeah.
So
It was the 70s.
huh?
It was the 70s, like you said, right?
If you didn't do drugs and alcohol, you were not normal. You weren't in. That's when Say No to Drugs, that didn't come out till the 80s.
Right.
The 70s was like you had to say yes to drugs. maybe someday in the near future I'll tell you a funny story about drugs and Ed, but I don't want to talk about it now.
Yeah, let's keep it. Yeah, let's keep it sort of like.
Be another time. It'd be funny.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say thank you so much for being on. I know you have a documentary. I don't want to make a big plug out of it, but I'm looking forward to that. I just want to tell you that I'm looking forward to it. That's all.
So we'll all get back and listen to the Van Halen albums here. Keep listening to them and keep reliving Eddie's great guitar playing, the great music he wrote. Like Aldo Nova said on our last show, he's a musician, a songwriter. The songs that he wrote, I mean, you enjoyed them as much today as the day they came out. So let's all celebrate the life of Eddie Van Halen and Van Halen as a whole. And thank you, Chris, for joining us with this tribute for sure.
Yeah. We could go on forever. I know it's late there in France, guys. Yeah. Thanks so much, Chris.
All right.
We're gonna talk soon. And you know what? We're looking forward to see you in Canada. Hopefully, it'll be sooner than later.
Yes, hopefully.
Okay. I do this. This is Donald Trump, but this is better. This is Cowabunga.
Cowabunga, that's it.
This is Ronnie James Dio.
That's Hawaiian.
Or maybe Gene Simmons. I don't know.
I gotta go like this. Cowabunga, right? Later.